All right, so now that a lot of us are around level 35 to 40, you're beginning to hit those walls where you can't progress, right? If we go over here to challenge, a lot of us are trying to do Doki Doki's Hell challenge, right? Hell 1 may be fine. Hell 2, you might be, getting a little bit destroyed there. Hell 3, they're just beating you up. And then Hell 4, you might as well erect your tombstone there. That's basically what I've seen a lot of, like what's going on right now. So you're probably wondering, well, how do you do it? These guys are so fast, they hit so hard. Well, I'm going to show you a couple ways that you could increase your power level so that this doesn't happen to you. And it's like, it's going to come from shells. Shells are going to be the main priority to it, and then followed by your prowess. So let's go over this one by one. Let's talk about shells. Shells are very important in this game. Like, I think people underestimate how much of an impact it plays. And to show you that, right? I've kept this shell around just to show you to you. This is a 3-star shell I was using. Look at it. Maxed out. Speed 20, attack 301. Right? If I go to the current 4-star shell I'm using, look at that. Speed 35, attack 593. That is a huge difference between 301 and 593. And you have a better passive than this one here. Right? 110 damage, 2 hits. 30% plus flat damage, 2 hits. 5 stacking up to 6 times. 6 stacking up to 10 times. So overtime is going to be good. Shells are going to be the driving force for that. And you're going to know that speed it gives you, those attack and damage, these passives it gives you, it's going to completely change your runs. I was struggling with Doki Doki, and when I upgraded these other shells here, these reddish shells, these 4-star shells, all of a sudden I started destroying them, these yellow shells, because I was still using the basic blue shells from the very beginning. I was upgrading them. I didn't understand how the stat differences worked between them and the abilities. And then the other thing about these shells is trying to figure out what suits your character. So for example, I'm going to use Lily for example here. Lily's skill 1, when maxed out, gives your DPS that the twin trick is on to 100% assist. So what that means is it's going to attack right after Lily does her skill 1. So the shell I chose is this little bee who says before the owner takes action, deals 160% of damage, right? Lowers the defense for this turn. That means once Lily's turn is over, that defense down is going to disappear. So I combine that with Lily's, ability to assist. And let's say Shada was my DPS. This is going to go, it's going to give defense down. Lily's going to go while the defense down is there, which is going to enable Shada to follow up right with her S1. While the defense is down, it's going to disappear. It's going to do a lot of damage, and then defense down is going to disappear. So you want to be able to match your shells with it, with the characters, what they do, their roles. And I'll save that. I'll probably be doing a shell guide later to help you guys on that. But what's basically happening here is the shells, at least for now, are very good stat sticks. So what you want to do, and this is how, my rate of progression for shells go, is you want to keep progressing here until you get to Fabian. Then Fabian's going to introduce these shells, and generically, this is good for supports because it gives a good bit of speed, and it helps out there. And then this is, good for DPSs or other characters that involve your DPSs because it gives a lot of attack damage and stuff. And then after you do that, you want to come over here to Nico Nana, and this is where you get these shells, which are really good for your characters. This guy's good for your DPS. This guy's good if you're dying a lot. You need some defensive shields on 2 of your characters. This is good for someone who's really fast, allows you to perform action. So shells are going to be one of the biggest factors on whether you can complete content or not. The other factor is skill ups, but not maxing out your skills. I'm talking about these right here. So how this game works is you have to path your way like a talent tree to the skill level up. Look at all that defense you're getting. You're getting all of that defense there. You're getting all of that attack there. You're getting all of this there. So, like, for example, if you're a DPS, right? And I'm using this as a 5-star. I know the 5-star. I know these cubes are these lattices are very hard to find. But I'll use an example. Let's say you want your DPS to do damage, then doing the prowess here allows you to get a lot of damage. If you wanted to max out this character as one of your DPSs. So yes, not so much upgrading the skill, but more so upgrading the pathway to the skill is going to give you a lot of damage. You want to also pay attention to whoever your supports are. So for example, this is my Doki Doki's crowd control unit, right? She puts people to sleep. You look over here, and you see reduces skill cooldown turn by 1. This is going to be a huge factor because you get those skills quicker, allowing you to launch more moves in shorter amount of times, which allows you to defeat content. So your shells are going to be very important when it comes to powering up your character, and your prowess is going to become very important. At least, getting these passives here before your actual skill. Let's talk about the 6-starring now. I don't think 6-star is going to be the defining factor on power alone. I think it's more so aiding, but if you have a DPS or support you're using, I think 6-starring could help them increase their damage and survivability and speed, but it's not going to have the huge effect on your shell, as your shell and your prowess. The next thing is modules. Now this is what you're farming, your threshold, right? This is where you get these items. What you're gonna happen is, let's say you just started the game and you have these lower tier ones, like these blue ones and gray ones, right? Flat attack is going to be really good in the beginning, right? So leveling up this piece, giving you flat attack, that's going to increase your damage a lot. These aren't going to do much. These are mainly for your substats, and these have more viability, like on a healer and stuff. Then, putting double crit rates here and a crit damage could help you increase your damage for some cheap, extra damage increases, right? Like, now your attack is critting, it's going to do crit damage, and you have like 85-95% crit rate, and you're able to slowly deal damage, right? They would be, in my opinion, is better than just putting like flat attack on all these characters, or attack percentage, right? Because we do have like attack percentage modules, right? Attack bonus by 50%, but if you don't crit, it may not be enough damage. So doing crit rate and crit damage is, I think, a very cheap way of getting some good damage across. Now let's talk about like acquiring this, like progression on acquiring this so you can power up your characters. We go over here to threshold, right? Obviously, everyone's going to tell you Hell 4 is where you want to be. But because you get this red gear, which is your mythic gear, which is the strongest type of gear in the game, and then eventually you want to get Inferno, which has like these cooler sets. I'm going to say up front that not everyone is going to be able to just jump right in and farm this. So what you want to do, right, and you may have to pull back all the way to Hell 1, whatever you can do, continuous battle, like, this right here, right? Whatever you can continuous battle and get a rival, like if you do 5 runs, you get like 4 or 5 of those 5 runs done, then you want to sit there and slowly gather your gear. If it's this one, it's fine. If it's this, even better. And using a combination of these 2 rarities, you'll be able to build characters so that they can actually deal damage. Now, if I find a better way of doing this, like eventually what you want to do is move away from crit rate and just have 1 crit rate piece and 2 crit damage pieces once your substats and your gears align. And your shell align and all that stuff works out. That's like the end game goal. Let's go back to shell a little bit. I forgot to mention this, but over here on Empower, these can also help, right? Look, crit rate by 12%, final damage by 30%. But like HP, what is that really going to do on my DPS? So you can reconfigure your shells, and I personally think you should only reconfigure 4-star shells or higher. That's me personally, right? You can sit here and reconfigure a shell and be like, okay, I get a decrease in attack by 60. Okay, well then I can overwrite that. I deal more damage. And there's going to be a lot of random passives, and you can just sit here and try to keep reconfiguring till you get, one that suits you. But I think, for DPSs, that crit rate's going to be good. The final damage is going to be good. Attack's going to be good. So let's recap just so we sum up. How do we get more powerful? We level up our character. We make sure that our shells are leveled up and that we have good shells. You know, you want the either yellow shells or red shells, right? The 4-star yellow or the higher rarity 4-star up here. They're going to carry you very far, right? Look at these stats, right? This is more speed, more HP. This guy is more defense than attack. And then this guy gives a lot more attack, right? So you got to make sure which shells pay. Your DPS should be using shells that have a lot of attack. Your support should be using shells that have a lot of HP or defense, depending on what your character scales off of. So shells are going to be one of the best things to increase your power, your level of the character, and your prowess. Make sure you're getting these little passives before your skill up so you don't actually use the lattice. And then make sure that your modules are good, right? Make sure that this is leveled up because it gives you your flat attack. And then make sure that, you know, these two are crit rate, in my opinion. If you don't have crit rate and you don't have crit damage, then yes, by all means, you can stack attack bonuses and you'll do some like decent damage. But eventually, you want to go crit rate, crit damage, and eventually want to be crit rate, crit damage. Eventually, that's like the end game goal, right? So level up your modules, and then if you need gear, don't be afraid to go to the weaker thresholds, right? Like you can do Hell 1 really easily, but you can't do Hell 2. Well, sit in Hell 1, get some gear until you can do Hell 2. Then if you can do Hell 2 easily, and move your way up. It's a progression game. You got to keep on grinding so that you can finally reach the end goal game where you can just sit there, grind with your eyes closed. So I hope that really helps you guys increase your power level, because those are where your biggest increases are going to come from in the very beginning of the game, right? Your shells, your modules, and your prowess. Your character being 6-star or 5-star isn't going to be that big of a difference until it actually makes difference, like whether you fail a run or not. But a lot of your power spikes are going to come from the previous things I've mentioned before 6-star. 6-star to me is the final thing on the journey of making sure your team, you know, victory secure. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm the Gacha Cultivator. Look forward to my future videos. Catch you guys on the next one.